What's up guys, it's time for another smartphone camera comparison video, and last time we already reviewed the S23 Ultra and compared it against the Sony a6400, which was a full-fledged APS-C camera. For today we will be comparing the S23 Ultra against the S22 Plus, which is a smartphone that was released about a year ago in February of 2022. Now I suppose that will be similar to the smartphones that most of you will have in your pockets right now. It's still a great phone, takes great pictures, but let's see how it holds up to the flagship smartphone of 2023. Let's go! Now it's a bright sunny day here at the park and we'll be testing the S23 Ultra against the S22 Plus. Let's see how the two cameras handle itself, the most optimal lighting conditions. And over here right now I'm testing the vlogging cameras, so I'm just holding the cameras handheld. There is a bit of camera shake, so let's see how well the camera deals with that. And how does it compare against the image from the S22 Plus? Is it better? Is it less good? Has Samsung been scamming us all this time? And here's the footage from the S22 Plus. What do you guys think? Is it noticeably worse or is it about the same quality? And bear in mind that I'm shooting both of these videos in the 8K mode. So how does this stack up against the 8K mode on the S23 Ultra, which Samsung has obviously been marketing a lot about. Now let's start by doing a video comparison on both of these cameras where I'm shooting in 8K mode on both of them. And as you can see, there's hardly any difference, and bear in mind that I already cropped it closer to actually get a better view of the pixels. Putting them side by side, you can see again there's hardly any difference. Yes, there is a little bit more detail in the chicken feather and the tree does look a bit cleaner, but overall I would say it's a very similar looking video. And the same story continues when you're looking at the photos as well. Now both of these were shot in 12 megapixel mode and I can hardly see any difference between the two of them. Moving on to another shot, you can see again there's hardly any difference. A small thing to note is that the S22 Plus does seem to be a bit yellow, whereas the S23 Ultra has a more natural white balance, and we'll see this theme throughout the rest of the photos. So that's it, we have been totally fooled by Samsung's marketing, right? Well, not quite. To see what's going on, let's compare the images from the new 200 megapixel sensor versus the 50 megapixel sensor on the S22 Plus. And if we zoom in on the live float in the center, we can really see what the new sensor can do. It's able to capture a lot more detail compared to the older sensor. And here is another photo taken using the 200 megapixel sensor. I'm not sure which version I prefer. The S22 Plus appears to be a bit warmer and brighter. S23 Ultra a bit more natural in terms of the white balance. I think I could go for either of these photos, they look great. But let's zoom in on the bridge at the far background to see what the fuss is really about. And the results just blew me away. The S23 Ultra looks very crisp, very sharp, perfectly usable, whereas the S22 Plus just looks like a blurry mess. And for our last comparison photo in the park, I really wanted to show you what the S23 Ultra can do with its 10 times optical zoom compared to the 3 times optical zoom found on the S22 Plus. And as you can see, you can get a lot closer to your subjects, and over here I have cropped into the lizard to give you a sense of the kind of detail that you can really pull from the 10x zoom. Now let's move to a more indoors kind of setting, and we can see here again that it's the same behavior that we have talked about just now. The S22 Plus does turn out a bit yellowish, whereas the white balance on the S23 Ultra just looks a bit more natural. But overall I think both of them look great. They have just as much detail, so there's really not much of a difference between the two photos. Now moving on, the 200 megapixel sensor also means that you can do some interesting macro shots. So for here, I'm just photographing grains of sugar, and if we crop the image, we can really see how much detail the 200 megapixel sensor can pull, and it's really great for doing macro shots like this. And very quickly, here is just another photo where you can see that we are able to pull a lot more detail on the carton drink in the middle compared to the S22 Plus. Now for the final part of this comparison video, I wanted to test how both of these cameras perform at night. So here's the video footage from the S22 Plus. I think it looks great even though the lighting conditions were pretty dark. The footage looks smooth, there's plenty of detail, but let's see how it stacks up against the S23 Ultra. And honestly, I think if you were expecting a big difference, you would be disappointed. Yes, the footage is a little bit cleaner, just very slightly, and it's a little bit smoother. In terms of noise, it's also handled a little bit better. But I think in terms of the general footage, you get very similar quality compared to S22 Plus. And if you're using it for something like YouTube or Instagram, you would not be able to tell the difference after the compression. And over here again, putting it side by side, you can see just how little difference there is in the video quality between the two sensors, especially when it comes to, a low light shooting environment. Now moving on to night photography that is not night mode, we do see that the S23 Ultra has made some improvement in terms of the optics, where we see less flare compared to the image from the S22 Plus. In terms of processing as well, I think it has done a slightly better job. There's a bit less noise and the picture just looks smoother and cleaner overall. And in this shot, the same theme continues. The S23 Ultra is able to pull a lot more detail from the scene and the picture looks cleaner and sharper overall. And if we zoom in on the cat in the middle, we can see that this is really the case. Look at how much detail it's able to pull from the cat's fur. This is not easy for any camera to do in a low light situation, so it's really impressive. And for the final comparison photo, I wanted to test how much the S23 Ultra has improved its night mode, and look at the difference, it's absolutely stunning. Now note that this was taken in almost no lighting except for the light from the outside moon and stars, so it's really incredible. So then, what's the conclusion? Has Samsung been scamming us all along? Well, obviously, no, right? I mean, the 200 megapixel sensor is totally amazing and it blows away the 50 megapixel sensor that the S22 Plus has. On top of that, video quality is obviously very good. In particular, the 8K 30 frames looks like what I can get from professional APS-C mirrorless cameras. And if you want a video of that comparison, check out my previous video. And on top of that, the night mode is also way better. So in terms of all the improvements to the camera that Samsung has claimed that they have done, I mean, it's really there, right? But on the other hand, bear in mind that the S22 Plus is going somewhere in between $700 to $800 on the market right now, brand new. And the S23 Ultra starts from $1,800 and it can easily go above $2,000 depending on the memory spec and the configurations that you choose. And for that price, I just don't think it's worth it, for anyone that's in it just for the image quality. Even if you are a hobby photographer, I think you'll be very pleased with the images that you're going to get on the S22 Plus. But of course, the S23 Ultra does have other features, as we know, like the S Pen and the latest Snapdragon processor. So if you add all of that in, it might be worth the upgrade. But if you're just looking for image quality alone, honestly, I don't think it's worth paying more than double just for the S23 Ultra, because let's face it, if you're just gonna upload your pictures on social media, you won't be able to notice that difference. And that's it, that's the end of the video. Now what do you guys think? Do you think it's worth it to pay more for the S23 Ultra, or do you think that you are perfectly happy with the S22 Plus? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like the video, please ring the bell icon and subscribe. It really helps, and I'll see you guys next time.